It rained lightly outside the castle, while Lucia enjoyed a cup of hot tea served by Jerome. Has it really been a month? She wondered quietly. It had been 1 month since she had married, and as she sipped her tea, memories of that day mingled with the present. Lucia recalled the moment she had seen Duke Hugo for the first time, marking a new phase in her life. Holding her cup and ignoring the rising steam, she realized she felt strangely restless. "My lady, is there anything you would like for dinner tonight?" Jerome asked, smiling as he inquired about her silence. "Anything is fine," Lucia replied softly, offering a faint smile. Jerome mused at her unchanging response. He recalled his initial concern when he first heard that a princess was to become the Duchess. Over time, however, as he got to know Lucia, he found no reason for worry. A sudden noise at the castle gates interrupted her thoughts. "Carriages arriving." "What is that sound?" Lucia asked, startled. Jerome?" she called, puzzled by the commotion. Jerome's eyes remained fixed on the window as he swallowed nervously. Finally, he spoke. "The master has returned." Hearing the Duke's return, Lucia straightened in her seat, but Jerome quickly advised her to wait. "There is no need for you to go out and greet him now," he explained gently, worried that she might be too shocked. "Shocked?" Lucia asked, confused by his choice of words. "I couldn't share the details with you, but the trip outside was rather rough," Jerome said, his expression tense. He added that Duke Hugo was known to be sensitive after such journeys, and that he would head straight to his bath. "It would be better if you see him afterwards," Jerome continued. Lucia acknowledged his words with a quiet, "I see." Her mind was full of questions about the Duke's long absence. While listening to some knights speak of a death in the territory, possibly connected to disputes with native tribes, she tried to make sense of the information. She remembered that although conflict had ended not long ago, tensions still ran high in the north, where Duke Hugo's reputation was both respected and feared. When Duke Hugo entered the castle, Jerome greeted him with a respectful bow. "I am glad to see you well, Your Excellency," he said. Observing the Duke, Jerome felt a familiar, unsettling tension. "I have prepared your bath," Jerome informed Duke Hugo as they walked along the hallway. Pausing briefly, the Duke asked, "Did anything happen?" "There is nothing significant to report. The lady is well, and I advised her not to greet you immediately," Jerome replied. "Well done," Duke Hugo responded. "There will be a meeting in 1 hour. Please have everyone ready." Jerome bowed his head again and quickly obeyed. Though the meeting might have been postponed if enemy forces were a threat, the Duke made sure to ask after Lucia, a gesture he rarely showed. Jerome quietly noted this change in attitude and wondered if Fabian had arrived at the capital by now, given the recent loss of so many people. He understood Fabian would face hard questions from the king about the casualties. At the dining table, Lucia sat quietly with Jerome nearby. "He must be very busy with the meeting." She mused. "I never expected us to be close, but can't we at least share dinner together?" Her voice was gentle yet insistent. Jerome looked at her, puzzled. "Is the food not to your taste, my lady?" he asked. "It's not that," she replied. "The food is as always. I'm just not very hungry today." Jerome noted with a hint of concern that she never left her food unfinished. Standing up, Lucia said, "I'll be excused." "Shall I prepare some tea?" Jerome offered once more. "No, that's fine." "I think I'll spend some time in the library and have tea later," Lucia said with a small smile as she left the room. Later, Lucia closed a book with a soft sigh. Although the story had its dull moments, she appreciated it overall. Still, she longed for something different, something like the perfect library in her dreams. She glanced at a shelf that held the book she was seeking, but it was placed too high for her to reach. "If only I had a ladder," she murmured quietly. Just then, a voice broke her concentration. "This one," said someone taller than her, offering to retrieve the book. Lucia never thought she missed him, or longed to see him so much. Yet as Duke Hugo helped retrieve the book she wanted from a high shelf, she felt an unexpected mix of emotions. "Thank you," she managed to say softly, stepping back with her back now pressed against the shelf. Inside, her mind raced with uncertainty. "I never realized I was waiting for him all this time," she thought, unaware of the pounding of her heart. She wondered about the timing. Had the meeting ended? Or was there still a pause? Should I ask about his journey first? Questions filled her mind as she struggled to find a way to start a conversation with the husband she had not seen for a month. Breaking the silence, Duke Hugo said, "I would have come to see you sooner if I could." Lucia hesitated before replying. "Of course, you were busy." Clutching her book a little tighter, she inquired, "Is the meeting over?" "For today," he answered quietly. Turning her gaze toward the castle's vast corridors, Lucia remarked softly, "The castle is splendid, yet so vast that I never seem to explore it all in one day." Duke Hugo offered a gentle correction. "In time, you will only visit what you truly need." Lucia closed her eyes and replied in a nearly whispering tone, "I just can't seem to meet your eyes." Her voice faltered when he mentioned her dinner. "I heard you didn't finish," he asked, concern evident in his tone. No, she quickly reassured him. "I ate plenty. The chef's work is always delightful. I'm just not feeling very hungry today." His tone shifted as he asked, "Did something upset you?" "Not at all," Lucia said, avoiding his gaze. The silence that followed left him momentarily unsure, as if she were a young girl overwhelmed by her own feelings. Gently, Duke Hugo ran his fingers through her hair, inhaling her familiar fragrance before softly kissing her hair. "Look at me," he requested in a low, calm voice. Puzzled, Lucia slowly lifted her head to meet his eyes. As he kept his hold gentle, his expression became searching. "Do you feel uncomfortable when you're with me?" "I don't feel uncomfortable," she admitted quietly, "just a bit flustered." "Are you chiding me for being away for a month?" he asked in a measured tone, a small smile playing at his lips. "That's not it," Lucia protested softly, her cheeks warming. He gently released her hair, lifting her chin until their eyes met fully. Then, with a careful yet passionate kiss, the distance that had grown over the month dissolved. Their closeness deepened as soft sounds marked the merging of their emotions. As their embrace continued, Duke Hugo's attentiveness shifted the scene. At one moment, he lifted Lucia effortlessly, carrying her toward a secluded area in the library, a space Lucia had not known held such a quiet retreat with a bed. On the bed, their quiet intimacy resumed. Lucia's thoughts swirled with questions. Are we really doing this here, right now? Yet, caught up in the moment, she found herself unable to halt what was already unfolding, their connection both familiar and quietly profound. Wait, Lucia interrupted amid their intimacy. Duke Hugo leaned forward to kiss her again, but she gently pushed his head aside. I said wait, she murmured. I need a bath first. I already bathed, Duke Hugo replied without missing a beat. No, I feel as though I'm not clean enough, Lucy admitted, her cheeks warming. I care about this too. Duke Hugo's expression softened as he said, Your Excellency, please. In that quiet moment, he paused his advances and helped her to stand. Before he could say more, Lucia dashed out of the library. Duke Hugo lightly tapped his head with his hand, murmuring, My head is spinning, as he settled down to reflect. He remembered clearly that once Duke Hugo set a plan, he followed it without deviation. Initially, his intention had been to travel through the Northern Territory, yet he canceled that plan to return to Roham instead. Now, as he picked up the book Lucia had dropped and flipped through its pages, her image surfaced repeatedly in his thoughts. A constant reminder he could not ignore. Despite his usual reservations about unexpected visitors in the library, her arrival had not bothered him, though he realized it nearly made him lose control. Why is she different? He wondered silently. Marrying Lucia had marked an unexpected shift for him from the very beginning, a change he never anticipated. A knock at the door interrupted his reverie. Your Excellency, it's me, Jerome announced as he entered with a respectful bow, visibly tense. I authorized the lady to visit the library, Jerome confessed before Duke Hugo interjected. How would you evaluate Lucia as a duchess? Jerome hesitated, then offered. It's not my place to judge, but everyone speaks highly of her. She is dignified, treats her subjects with respect, and addresses issues directly. Everyone? Duke Hugo queried, surprised by the unanimous praise for Lucia. He noted that Jerome's admiration was uncommon, especially compared to the women he had known Jerome to favor. Indeed, Jerome continued, although she is young, she handles herself impressively. Curious about her current whereabouts, Duke Hugo asked, Where is Lucia now? Jerome explained that she was in the bathroom, taking a bath. Inside the bathing room, Lucia was gently attended by her handmaids. One remarked softly, How do you have such soft skin, my lady? Another added that, even without oil, Her skin possessed a delicate smoothness. Although the compliments were meant kindly, Lucia couldn't help but feel self-conscious. What is the value of soft skin if I don't compare to someone like Sophia Lorenz? She thought, her heart sinking a little with each word. Yet, a comforting thought emerged from a recent dream. A dream in which Duke Hugo treated his wife with unwavering respect, never allowing another woman to share official moments with him. That dream reassured Lucia that despite everything, she would receive the dignity she deserved as his wife. Finished with her bath and neatly dressed by the handmaids, Lucia emerged with a quiet acceptance. Even amid uncertainties, a part of her believed that some unspoken respect and understanding would guide their future together. As Lucia entered her room, her handmaidens blushed nervously. Sitting calmly on a chair with a glass of wine in hand was Duke Hugo. Why is he already here? Lucia wondered, her face warming slightly. The handmaidens quickly excused themselves, giggling as they left the room. Was he waiting for me to finish bathing? She thought, growing uneasy at the idea of rumors spreading through the castle. The Duke shifted his gaze to Lucia, leaving her momentarily confused. Trying to remain composed, she walked toward him. I thought the memory of our first night had faded. I guess I was wrong, she admitted to herself. Would you like some? Duke Hugo offered, extending the glass of wine toward her. Yes, Lucia replied softly. Even just a sip. Maybe it'll help me relax. She took the glass and drank it in one go. The bitter, sour taste made her scrunch her face. She doesn't seem to like it, Duke Hugo thought, amused. Want more? He asked. Yes, please, Lucia answered, holding out her glass. He poured her another. I guess it's going to happen soon, Lucia thought, a faint blush on her cheeks. Without a word, Duke Hugo reached out, gently touching her neck. Drawing her closer, he kissed her. Then, with one hand, he took the wine glass from her while still holding her hand. Do you enjoy drinking? He asked. A little. Only on special occasions, Lucia answered hesitantly. With a faint smile, he kissed her again. His hands slowly moved, and they began to grow more intimate. Supporting her by the waist, Duke Hugo paused for a moment. Lucia had begun trembling. You're trembling. Don't be scared, he said gently. It won't hurt this time. If you're too nervous, you won't enjoy it, and it could even hurt. Lucia stammered, caught off guard by his careful tone. Lifting her into his arms, he carried her to the bed. She remained silent. Laying her down gently, he settled beside her, wrapping his arms around her. His touch is so gentle. I'm not trembling as much now, Lucia realized. Duke Hugo said nothing. I should have held back that night, he thought, a strange expression passing over his face. She probably thinks I'm a terrible man. I thought she was small but strong, confident. It was surprising to see her so afraid. He didn't want her to be scared. For the first time, he found himself wishing someone would feel safe with him. Neither of them moved. They remained quietly wrapped in each other's arms. Are we not doing it tonight? Lucia wondered, glancing at his calm face. He doesn't seem like he intends to, she thought. Maybe he was just trying to look considerate. Maybe he wanted others to think we're getting along. Is it because I was bad before? Would it be different if I hadn't refused? Will we not be doing this at all anymore? Still held close, her mind was flooded with questions. Are we really not going to? Quietly, she squeezed her hands and gave him a small nudge. Hey, you're not really asleep, are you? She asked softly. I'm not doing this to put you to sleep, Duke Hugo replied, his voice low and calm. Duke Hugo asked Lucia if she was tired. She replied that she was fine, but reminded him that he must be the one exhausted. He reassured her that he wasn't tired at all. Instead, he gently told her he wanted to hold her, then quietly asked, Do you want me too? As he kissed her hand. Lucia, caught off guard, looked confused. The Duke clarified, saying he wanted to be intimate with her. He carefully asked if their first night had been that terrible. Lucia hesitated to respond, distracted by how bright and sincere his eyes looked. He looks at me like I'm beautiful, she thought. Duke Hugo promised things would be different this time. Lucia stayed quiet, unsure of what to say. Then, almost awkwardly, she admitted, I can't trust you. You lied to me. He looked surprised. I told you it would hurt if it was your first time, he replied. But you said it would only hurt a bit. It hurt a lot, she said honestly. Hearing this, Duke Hugo's expression turned apologetic. He asked for a chance to make it up to her, gently guiding her hand to his face, showing her how much he cared. He asked if she planned never to try again. Lucia blushed and couldn't answer at first, then gave a small, nervous laugh. Vivian, he called her softly, emotions welling up inside him. That depends on how it goes today, she finally said, showing her willingness. The Duke smiled warmly. You really know how to tease me, he said with a grin. This time, he took things slow, careful not to upset her. With soft kisses and a gentle touch, they shared a more intimate and emotional moment under the sheets. As he moved with care, he asked if it hurt. Lucia didn't respond with words. She simply closed her eyes and let herself enjoy the moment. If it's too much, tell me. The next morning, Lucia woke up in his arms. She was momentarily startled, realizing she had fallen asleep without noticing. The sunlight was already pouring in. Duke Hugo held her close, pressing gentle kisses to her neck. She let out a quiet moan. Your Excellency, she whispered. My name, he corrected softly. Hugh, let me go, she said shyly. I don't want to, he replied, resuming their intimacy. Lucia tried to speak again. Hugh, it's morning. But he didn't stop, pulling her into another passionate encounter. Eventually, afternoon came. Lucia had fallen asleep again, this time more at peace. Duke Hugo, watching her closely, held her in his arms. Looking at her resting face, he finally admitted to himself, It seems I've truly gone mad for her. Lucia's daily routine had become predictable. She woke up late, was dressed by her handmaidens, ate a late breakfast alone, and often drifted off into a nap. Before she knew it, it was lunchtime. Her afternoons were filled with quiet walks or light reading, followed by dinner, which she always shared with Duke Hugo, even if he took breakfast or lunch alone. After her evening bath, she spent her nights with him and often fell asleep exhausted. Then morning came, and the cycle repeated. One morning, Lucia muttered to herself, I feel listless. It had been a month since Duke Hugo arrived at the castle. Though he was intense in his affections each night, people around her had treated her with increased warmth. Her handmaidens, once flustered, now seemed more at ease even when delivering her dresses late. I suppose there's no greater influence than a husband's love, Lucia thought. Spending every day with the Duke had made her less shy. If she ever wanted to avoid his advances, she could simply tell him. But even if she was always tired, Lucia admitted she didn't hate it. It'd be a lie to say I don't look forward to him every night, she confessed quietly. One morning, staring out the window at the overgrown garden, Lucia thought, should I try gardening? It's not like I have anything better to do. Her body had adapted to her new life. She no longer slept until afternoon. But coming from a dream where survival meant working for every meal, this idle comfort felt strange. Even as a countess, she had to attend social events. Now, with no obligations, she wondered, what am I supposed to do with all this time? She had heard that noble ladies filled their days with flower arranging or embroidery. But as the 16th princess raised in a forgotten castle, no one had taught her such things. Her skills were limited to reading and walking alone. That morning, Jerome approached her with a smile. My lady, he said, handing her an envelope. Lucia opened it and asked, surprised, an internal budget? Yes, Jerome confirmed. This portion wasn't previously managed, so it took some time to prepare. Employment and castle maintenance are covered elsewhere. This budget is entirely yours to manage. A new budget? She asked. But what's it for? Isn't it usually for salaries and daily operations? Jerome explained that this internal budget was traditionally allocated to the lady of the house, for household affairs, events, and support for her husband. Though this year's version wouldn't be reflected in the larger household accounts, it was hers to use freely within the set amount. So even if it's called a household budget, it's essentially my own money, Lucia realized. The sum was significant. Her days of quiet idleness were coming to an end. She groaned inwardly, but knew this was more than a privilege. It was a responsibility. She needed to show she could manage it well. Later that night, Lucia told Duke Hugo about her garden plans. The garden? He asked. Yes, she replied. Didn't you say you didn't want flowers planted? So is it all right if I manage it? The garden belongs to the lady of the house. Do as you like, he said as he carried her toward the bed. We'll need a planner, designers, and workers. It might get busy for a while, she added cautiously. I just thought you might find it bothersome. Do you need more funds? He asked, still walking. What? Lucia blinked in surprise. I can increase your budget, but only slightly. I finalized this year's numbers and gave you as much as I could as a provisional amount. No, That's not what I meant. It's already more than enough, she assured him. I thought he was casually generous because he's a duke, Lucia thought. But he really did go through the effort. Compared to the modest funds she received as Count Matten's wife, this was far more generous. Lucia knew a nobleman's treatment of his wife was often reflected in the internal budget. A happy husband increased it. A discontent one would cut it down. So the Duke must be fairly satisfied with me, she concluded. I just didn't want you to be annoyed by all the people coming and going, she told him. She had never taken care of a garden before. Back at the Count's estate, those expenses were considered wasteful. What if Duke Hugo dislikes it too? She thought nervously, eyes cast down. I told you it's under your authority, Hugo said. People come and go through Rome every day. It's not like you'll bring in thousands. Cut down trees, build a pond, do whatever you want. You don't need my permission. He knelt before her, and Lucia looked at him shyly. I'm just not sure what I can do freely and what I need to ask for, she admitted. How far can I go? Lying side by side in bed, Hugo smirked. How far can you go? Lucia jolted slightly, catching the teasing tone. Is this a chance? If he's this pleased with me, maybe I can ask for more, she thought, but instead she answered honestly. I'm asking because I really don't know. I wasn't taught what a duchess should or shouldn't do. Lucia understood that unchecked greed could lead to destruction. She had no intention of pushing too far. As long as I'm the Duchess, I already have wealth and status. There's nothing more I need, she thought. You mean you need a teacher, Duke Hugo said, slightly frustrated with himself. I should have thought of that sooner. Understanding dawns on the Duke. There are no elders in his house to guide her, and Lucia has no family to teach her the ways of nobility. He promises to find her a proper mentor. The next day, during dinner, the Duke informs her that Countess Corzin will arrive tomorrow. Lucia is surprised. She doesn't know the woman. She'll be your teacher. Whether she's a guest or not is up to you, he says. Countess Corzin is the godmother of Northern High Society, a widow who raised her son and ran her household alone. Highly respected, she's often asked to tutor young noblewomen. Lucia is impressed and curious. Isn't it difficult to get someone like her to come? She asks. The Duke glances at Jerome. All the staff suddenly excuse themselves, leaving the room in awkward silence. Duke Hugo then admits, even for him, persuading Countess Corzin wasn't easy. I worked hard for this, he says with a smug grin. Lucia, a bit shy, thanks him. But the Duke seems to expect more than just words. She offers a kiss, hoping it's enough, but he leans in again. Their moment quickly escalates, and Lucia blushes as he lifts her onto the table. You're not thinking of doing it here, are you? She asks, flustered. The Duke, genuinely confused, hadn't even thought about that. Until now. Why not? He teases, closing the space between them with a wicked grin. Lucia closes her eyes and gently protests. It's not right to do this where we eat. Duke Hugo chuckles. Then what about other places like the hallway or the garden? He teases. Of course not, Lucia exclaims, her face flushing red. Why not? The Duke presses. Because someone might see us, she replies bashfully. So if no one's around, it's fine? He counters with a grin. Caught off guard, Lucia stammers. That seems all right. We're a married couple after all, she reasons silently. If no one knows, it's okay, right? Duke Hugo, stunned that she's seriously considering his playful suggestion, tries desperately to calm himself. Think holy thoughts, he mutters internally, trying to hide his growing desire. Lucia ultimately shakes her head. Still, I don't want to do it here. Duke Hugo smiles, surrendering. As you wish. As the tension fades, he gently asks, You're going for a walk, right? Yes, Lucia replies. Mind if I join you? I'd like that, she says, her eyes lighting up. Hand in hand, they walk through the garden. Lucia begins chatting about her plans. I'm thinking of filling the garden with just flowers this year. Just flowers? The Duke asks. Lucia laughs softly. It might be tacky, but it's my first time planning a garden. He listens silently, drawn in by her words. She used to speak so freely, he thinks. But ever since our first night, she's been quieter. It's my fault. I wish she would talk more. Even if it's a bit much, it makes me happy to hear her voice. Lucia points to a large tree in the garden. That one. I drink tea under its shade every morning. They say it's been here since the castle was built. hundreds of years ago. Is that so? The Duke says, intrigued. Then that should be the first place. First place for what? Lucia asks, confused. You know, for doing it in the garden, he replies with a straight face, making her gasp. Grinning, he gently pulls her under the tree's shade. Calm down, or I really will, he whispers, holding her close. Hidden by darkness under the ancient tree, the two lovers share yet another intimate moment. Elsewhere, inside the castle, I'm so tired. Fabian mutters as he returns. Welcome back, Jerome says, embracing his twin brother. You must be exhausted traveling to the capital and back. Yeah, has His Excellency finished dinner? Fabian asks. You can give your report in the morning. He's out. Out? Where to? He went for a walk. With who? Fabian asks, puzzled. Who do you think? The lady of the house, Jerome replies dryly. Seriously? He went walking. With her? Jerome raises an eyebrow. They're very close. They eat together almost every day. Fabian is stunned. Since when? Since he returned to the castle, Jerome says. Fabian starts to mumble. Since when did he have a taste for her? But Jerome punches him in the stomach before he can finish. I told you to shut up. Don't start rumors, Jerome snaps. I was just saying, even that woman lasted over a year, Fabian wheezes. Maybe he's just enjoying his honeymoon phase. Jerome frowns. Countess Falcon lasted over a year too. But he wasn't only seeing her. Still, something about Lucia feels different. The next morning, a carriage arrives at the gates of Terran Castle. Countess Corzin has arrived. Recap. Greetings, my lady. You may call me Madame Michelle, Countess Corzin said with practiced grace, introducing herself to Lucia. As she assessed the young Duchess, her thoughts brimmed with skepticism. How curious, wanting lessons on being the lady of a house after marrying into it? She mused inwardly. She recalled the terse letter she'd received. Teach the Duchess of Terran. It may have been worded as a request, but coming from Duke Hugo, it was nothing short of an unshakable command. He really is unmatched in arrogance, she fumed, crumpling the letter slightly in her grip. But she knew refusing him would spell disaster for her reputation. Yet when she arrived at the castle, Lucia bowed politely, her demeanor full of humility. I hope this sudden request hasn't been too discourteous, Lucia said softly. Caught off guard, Countess Corzin's eyes widened for a moment. It would be an honor to teach you, my lady, she replied with genuine respect. I fear I might be a burden, Lucia added shyly, leading her guest inside. To the Countess's surprise, the young Duchess was warm and modest, nothing like the proud, pampered noblewoman she had expected. Lucia admitted, I've never been properly educated. Haka, that's why I asked His Excellency to bring you here. She even added bashfully, Please tell me if I speak or act improperly. Countess Corzin smiled. There's nothing impolite about you, my lady. In fact, you already possess the most important qualities, sincerity and consideration. That's the essence of etiquette. Lucia blushed, flattered. You're too kind, madam. Despite her composed exterior, Countess Corzin thought, It's a good thing I came. Duke Terran? He does know how to judge character, after all. When she asked if it had been 2 months since Lucia's wedding, Lucia nodded. Then it's time for you to begin socializing. A tea party would be a good start, the Countess advised. Lucia asked about the size and was told to keep it modest. 10 guests, beginning with the wives of the Duke's vassals. You may ask the butler for help. Jerome is very capable, the Countess added. So Jerome's famous after all, Lucia thought with a smile. Their conversation flowed easily, with Countess Corzin weaving wisdom into casual talk. Lucia was captivated by her grace and poise. Even her way of sipping tea was elegant. Then Countess Corzin made a generous offer. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'd love to introduce you to my niece. Lucia's eyes lit up. Oh, what is she like? With a resigned sigh, the Countess warned. Her behavior is unconventional. She's cheerful, yes, but causes trouble. Trouble? Lucia asked, intrigued. A man cheated on her friend, so she threw him into a pit of horse manure. What? Lucia exclaimed, barely holding in laughter. I must meet your niece. She's full of advice on love, too, the Countess added with a grin. Lucia blinked. But I'm already married. Marriage is only the beginning, not the end, the Countess said sagely. Then she asked, How long did you court His Excellency before marriage? Lucia froze. 3 times. I met him only 3 times. Countess Corzin looked a little disappointed. She married him without truly knowing him. She leaned forward gently. If I may ask, what kind of man is he to you? Lucia hesitated, her face darkening a bit. He's self-centered, she confessed. Countess Corzin's expression softened into a subtle smile. Honesty, yet another sign of a sincere heart. Countess Corzin sipped her tea thoughtfully, watching Lucia with a knowing gaze. I've never even spoken with Duke Terran, she thought, but I've taught enough heartbroken young ladies to know. He's cold, indifferent, and shamelessly promiscuous. Still, as she observed the Duchess, her doubts only deepened. They've been married 2 months. She's probably still clinging to that newlywed fantasy. I doubt she knows a thing about him. But Lucia's next words caught her off guard. He is self-centered, but he's not temperamental. He's decisive, clear about what he wants. He never looks back. Countess Corzin blinked, a little stunned by the clarity of Lucia's observations. Well, it seems I was the one making idle assumptions, she admitted. You know your husband far better than I expected, my lady. That's a good thing. It means you haven't forgotten yourself. She looked serious as she leaned in. Giving your whole heart to your husband, relying on him too much. It can be dangerous. If he disappears, you lose yourself. That's poison. Don't forget yourself. Lucia's expression grew firm. I can't forget, even if I wanted to. Countess Corzin nodded approvingly. Still, don't be too distant from him either. Maintaining the right distance is key. Lucia blinked in confusion. An appropriate distance? With a small smirk and a darker expression, the Countess asked. Forgive me, but how many times a week does His Excellency visit your bedroom? Lucia blushed fiercely. Pardon? Every day, she finally whispered, her face crimson with embarrassment. Countess Corzin chuckled behind her cup. Well then, seems the Duke is completely smitten after all. Lucia, flustered, asked how to maintain that mysterious distance. We'll speak more about that another time, the Countess said with a knowing smile. Though I doubt you need much help in that department. As the meeting drew to a close, Lucia walked her guest out. Get home safely, Madame Michelle, she said warmly. You'll do well at next week's tea party, the Countess said, her confidence in Lucia growing. Once alone, Lucia sighed deeply. A tea party, she muttered to herself. Countess Corzin's words echoed in her mind. You are the lady of House Terran, but that doesn't mean you must be the center of high society. Still, you cannot avoid social activities entirely, the Countess had warned. Host tea parties or garden parties twice a month, invite 10 ladies, occasionally expand to 30. Lucia grimaced at the number. 30 guests? Being a duchess is harder than I thought. She sat in her room, overwhelmed. Even when I was a countess, I had no interest in social events, but I'll have to get used to it. Clenching her fists, she whispered, I'll ask Jerome later. Just then, her handmaiden entered hesitantly. Pardon me, my lady, she said, looking shy. Lucia turned, puzzled. Could it be that you're pregnant? The maid asked gently. Lucia's eyes widened, stunned and a bit offended. What? It's been over 2 months since your last period, the maid added softly. Perhaps you should see a doctor, just in case? Lucia quickly brushed it off. No, it's not that. Don't worry. But, my lady, I said I'm fine, Lucia snapped, her tone sharp. I know my body perfectly well. The maid recoiled, startled and afraid. Yes, my lady. Lucia turned away, her expression falling. A deep sorrow settled over her face. The room turned quiet. The maid dared not speak again.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more manhwa content. See you in the next one.